Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Overview and Scrutiny meeting. Can I just take any apologies for absence, please, Spencer?
We've got no apologies, Chair.
Thank you. And do I have any declarations of interest? Yes, Councillor Wilkin.
I would like to declare that I live in a platform housing house, which I know isn't, this is rooftop, but they subcontract repairs, so I'm just going to say it for my own coverage.
All right, thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting. Everyone happy with those minutes? So proposed by Councillor Catworthy. Anybody second? Councillor Crump. Everyone happy with that? Everyone in favour? Perfect, thank you. And questions from the members of the public? I don't think we have any. No, thank you. So moving swiftly on. So we've got a relatively, well, it looks like a short agenda, but I imagine, Mark, I'm afraid that we're probably going to keep you here for a little while, asking you some questions about the presentation you got for us. So this is Mark McKeegan from Rooftop, the Executive Director for Operations. We've had questions that we submitted to Rooftop in advance. We have a presentation. I've had a conversation with Mark. He's happy that we take sliding questions. But equally, if there's context that's on the next slide, then we'll allow to go to that, and then we'll ask the questions if everyone's happy. So yeah, over to you, Mark. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay, thanks very much, Chair, and thank you for inviting me. So I'm Mark McKeegan. I'm Executive Director for Operations for Rooftop. Fairly new starter, started in November, so really pleased to be here. So first slide, just everybody's contact details. I think you'll probably know Boris as Chief Executive. I'm sure he's been here. So, and their personal mobile numbers that you can reach us all on. The role that I perform, mainly landlord services, running frontline services. I have 3 reports: head of housing, head repairs and maintenance, lettings, income. I also deal with complaints. Other 2 colleagues, and with a bit of hindsight, I think it would have been nice if Becky was here, actually, who's the Executive Director for Investment. She mainly deals with all the development, asset investments and new build. So I'll do my best to answer any questions on that. Anything that I can't answer, I'll obviously take it away. So first real slide then, and then pause after this for any questions. These are the KPIs year on year with previous years, and members will be able to sit and downs with this really. I think probably the key ones that I want to point you towards that might generate discussion is the overall customer satisfaction on that top line. So you see that in 2021-22 at 81%, and you'll see that going down and down. That is happening all over the sector, all over the country. So people's satisfaction and customer satisfaction with housing and social housing going down by something like 2 to 5% every single year. So the actual median for the sector currently is 71%. So Rooftop looking quite bad when you look at it that way, and it's going to probably be hitting 65, 66%. But actually in comparison, that it is actually above that median figure. There are a number of reasons for it. There isn't one particular reason, but certainly there's dissatisfaction with some of Rooftop's customers around repairs, and we can talk about that in a little while. I've got a couple of slides on that. Also the way that we gather data. So this is part of something called a tenant satisfaction measures. So social housing is now regulated. So we've got a regulator for social housing, and every year we've got to produce something called tenant satisfaction measures. There's 22 of them. 10 of them are some of the measurements that you see on here, some of the management measurements like rent arrears, as rent debit, but 12 of them are about perception. So we have to contact a certain number of people and ask them questions around sort of 12 areas, and then this overall satisfaction is one of them. So it's pretty much known in the industry that if you do this face to face, you get better results, but that's obviously a really expensive way to do it, and resource wise very time consuming. Or you can do it by telephone, or you can do it by sort of text. Rooftop do a mixture. So if you do customer satisfaction face to face, you're normally worth about 5-6 points better. If you do it on the telephone, again, people are more likely to give you a positive score, really. You do it by text, the points actually drop. So the methodology about how we are gathering information is part of this as well. So at that point, do you want me to take any questions, Chair?
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Crump.
Okay, you've answered part of the question that I was going to say, but you talk about the different methodologies. So do you think that people are, the reason they're doing it, do you think it's just more honest on the text as opposed to, they feel sort of more intimidated, say on the phone or face to face? Do you think that the text is actually giving you a true representation of the real survey?
Yeah, certainly, if you read the press around the housing industry, then, that is actually said, that people might be more likely to say good things about you when you're looking at them, sort of the whites of their eyes, compared to, the sat with Netflix on and thinking of doing this or doing that. So that is definitely a factor in there. But I can't ignore the factor that, day-to-day repairs, you can see on that fourth line there, that, we've got a target of 20 days and it's hitting 36 days. So people are waiting longer for repairs, and we have a plan in place that's working with that, and that's covered in a later slide. But that's definitely one of the reasons, yeah.
Okay. And also, sort of, what are the other key areas? Have you sort of identified the other key areas that are the issues?
For customer dissatisfaction. So when we take these, we do the actual survey throughout the year. We don't just do it once a year. So it's like a rolling program of it. And as I say, we've got to survey a set number of people. It's then reported to board every 2 months. But what we can do is, even though the information is confidential and we say that to people, we've actually, all of the comments that they make, we have an action plan where we follow every one of them up. So, and people are different and areas are different. So, for example, we've got some flats in Gloucester and there's some serious antisocial behaviour there. So they're a bit dissatisfied about how we have or haven't dealt with that with our partners. So it's just another example of, things that we'll follow up on, but some of them are individual issues. But I've got to say, I've looked at the data since I've been here, the repairs situation keeps on coming back and back and back.
Councillor Tucker.
Yes, on that, on the question of the routine repairs completed right first time, those figures look very, very impressive. But how do you gather those figures? Is there an actual survey that's carried out with the individual after the event, like an online survey, or what is? How do you gather those figures?
Yeah, so the right first time is generated by the contractor who's PPC, and it's whether the repair's been completed to satisfaction and right first time. The percentage customers satisfied with repairs, that's done via a text after the repair's actually been done. So that actually isn't part of this tenant satisfaction surveys that I'm talking about, tenant satisfaction measures. That's actually a transactional survey. So we actually put a lot of truck in that because the person's actually received the service. So what it's telling us is that when the operative is getting to the door and completing the repair, they are really high scores. They are really good scores for customer satisfaction. But it's getting them to the door on time, which is what we're wrestling with now.
So yes, but I'm not quite clear how you gather that information, which gives you that figure.
Oh, so yes, so they'll get a number of questions, and one of them in there is around how satisfied are you, and it's like a Likert scale. So on a scale of 1 to 5, and then they'll pick one from then on, and then it's averaged up.
And I take it that's an online survey which is sent to them after the repair, is it?
It's telephone, I think, so it's through text.
Right. Do you think that an online survey might work better? Email to them?
Well, I mean, we're always looking at new ways to communicate and giving people more and more options. We do get high response rates with these and high figures, but it's definitely something we could consider and look at.
Thank you, Chairman. I've actually got 3 questions, if I may, but perhaps easier if I take them one by one. What does non-emergency actually mean?
So these are sort of things like routine repairs. So an emergency might be that there is a flood or the property's insecure, and we'd have to do that within 24 hours. Non-emergency, it could be need a new internal door, things like that.
Can you just be a touch more specific? Perhaps you should say the other way around. What's emergency then?
Yeah, so an emergency is something
do it
like,
that way,
say there's a flood, or say there's a leak, you know, so the toilet's not working, or there isn't any electricity to the property and there's children in the property, or there's people that are vulnerable. You'd expect that to be an emergency and completed within 24 hours. If it's something like an internal door that needs to be renewed, or if it's a tap that needs to be fixed or renewed, that's more like a routine non-emergency repair.
Okay. And going on to my next question, then, non-emergency is 36 days, more than a month. Why does it take so long?
So it's a backlog. I do have a slide further down the deck, which we can come on to a bit later. But it's literally a backlog from COVID, plus the number of repairs that people have been reporting since COVID has gone up by something like 10 to 30%. So I probably shouldn't have mentioned COVID because those ones have gone now, but the 10 to 30% stuff it's about 12% in this area in rooftop. So there's more people reporting more repairs. So that's causing a backlog, and we call it work in progress. So we're probably looking at about 20,000 repairs a year that happens at rooftop. And then we just recalibrated this with PPC at present, who's the contractor, because we're looking to do around 1,700 repairs a month is the figure that we should be heading for. And you'll see in a bit a later slide that during the last 6 months we put a plan in place with them to reduce that. We're putting extra resources in, correlated that with the budget for next year. Currently are about 2,382, I think, and they need to be closer to 1,700, but they were 3,100 in November. So and there's a bit of a slide later where you can see the improvements on that.
If I can, Chairman, just add one. Why aren't your targets, take the very top one there, why isn't that 100%?
For customer satisfaction, I think because we've got to be a bit realistic. I think there's no way that if we could set it at 100%, but it would never, ever hit it. Even putting it at 82% based on what's happening in the industry and those points that are falling on customer satisfaction, it would never hit it. That doesn't mean that we don't want to achieve or aspire to go for 100% customer satisfaction with everything that we do. But we need to have targets that are challenging and also excite the team a bit to motivate them. Because if they put it in as 100%, it wouldn't do anything. I know, that's why I just said then, even 82% looking at these. I mean, I am going to have a conversation around some of these targets. You can take average days to relet as well. You know, that's down at 40 days. But if you look at the number of days there that it's taken to relet properties, predominantly because we've got some sheltered stock that's hard to let. It's not very nice to look at. It's from 1970s. And then we have care plans on the extra care schemes, so we can't let properties until we've got a proper care plan in place. And that's what's driving those figures up. But you can see it's 92, and we've also got some long-term voids that we've let, some of them being empty for over 12 months. So just managed to get half of those let this year, which is driving that figure up. But 92 to 40, I think we'll be looking at that again.
Sounds like you want more resources and more staff.
Yeah, so the budget next year, we're having to target staff where it's needed. So we have got a lettings team in. The majority of the new staff, we're putting 5 more operatives into the PPC contract. So there's currently 25 operatives. That'll go to 30 because of this backlog that we've just discussed. I'm putting it into complaints because complaints are rising. So that needs to have more resource, and we're signed up to Housing Ombudsman Code that it's a statutory duty, so we've got to respond to complaints within certain timescales. And then I'm sure we might come on to it, but damp and mould as well. We've got Arab's Law coming in October, so we're putting about £750,000 into the damp and mould, just around dealing with the building inspectors. I'll have to go out. There's certain timescales attached to that. We've got to do work by 14 days within a certain timescale too, once identified. And then we'll be procuring contractors to help with that as well. So that's predominant. We're sort of going where the extra staff, we're where it needed in the most pressure, actually. But lettings, we've got a programme of works underway with that, which is key management. So as soon as that key comes in, how long is it taking us to re-let, so we can actually pinpoint exactly where there are any issues, and being absolutely obsessed with chasing that key down. So is the delay with PPC, you know, around actually doing the property up. Some properties are coming back in a terrible state, so they're with them longer. Or is the issue with rooftop in letting them, is the process not as sharp as it should be? So that's the type of work that's going on with that at present.
Just one more, if I may. You mentioned the national picture, I think, a number of times. Somebody must be at the top of that. And it would be nice if it was you, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Rather than bringing in figures like this, which are on a downward spiral, wouldn't it be nice if you were heading towards whoever is at the top?
Yeah, there's nothing I would like more. Say when you're benchmarking this information, they're coming down.
Sorry, I've got Councillor Catworthy, Sims, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Tucker.
Good evening. Going on from the point, and just picking up on what you might class as an emergency repair. Let's just take an example. Someone suddenly realises at 2 o'clock in the morning they get out of bed and they've got a pipe burst. I presume you have a 24-hour service and all the residents have an emergency number that they can contact?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
So just as that's a follow-up to that question, so I recognise that you've put sort of non-emergency repair, you know, how long it's taking to, so what's the statistic for emergency repair? Are those, if someone calls up with an emergency, they're all dealt with within 24 hours? Or?
Yeah, it's about 95%, so the other 5% might be that they've done the job but they haven't logged it on the computer system till the next day. Some of them, they have, unfortunately, either had access issues or they haven't done it till the next day.
Okay. All right, thanks. Councillor Sims?
Chair. It's really on your 1 star under the first blue paragraph. It's typically we survey approximately 10% of our general needs and older person scheme households each year. So you have identified, well, there are 18,000 properties, dwellings occupied by older people in general needs. I just wanted to find out why only 600 of those were surveyed and what proportion are general needs and older persons and disabled, and why that's why 10%, is that a standard that you have to go to? Could you do more? Thank you.
Yeah, so the 18,000 is the number of repairs logged. It goes from sort of 18 to 20,000. There's around 7,000 stock at rooftop, about 5,500. That's general needs. The rest is the rest is older persons or an extra care. The reason that's stated there is because there is a whole methodology behind the tenant satisfaction measure. So the regulator's actually stipulating, and you have to put a return back in about how you've undertaken this particular survey, and it's got to be statistically correct. So there's real strict guidelines that we have to follow. So that's why it's that figure. But that's not all that we do. We do like an annual survey to customers where we'll ask them what their top 3 priorities are. Every single person at rooftop will get a little questionnaire, and they'll say, what is your top priority? If it usually comes out at sort of repairs, dealing with antisocial behaviour and security of tenure, so people just can't be evicted at the drop of a hat. So there needs to be that landlord-tenant role in there. But also we've got a real tenant involvement strategy and a framework. So we have tenants completing scrutiny reviews for us, mystery shopping, going into services. They meet every fortnight, and then just establishing a new strategy group for customers, and that'll be directly feeding into board, and it'll be influencing board decisions.
Going back to the sort of tenant inspection, so is that so tenants in different areas monitor their own sort of issues and feedback to you?
Yeah,
via a sort of tenant representative to each area. Okay, that's
so we have a number of engaged residents. So we've just been on a a campaign to improve that around numbers, and that's gone from 30 to 110 in the last 5 months. But what we've got is a scrutiny group, because some people can donate more time than others, obviously. But so the scrutiny group, I would sit down with the chair and the rest of the members, and then would agree what they'd look at. So they're actually going to be looking at the voids and relet process for us, and they'll interview staff. They'll get all the financial records, and then they'll make recommendations, and it's a proper decision-making part of their business. So, I'll go along then, and it'll be like, well, here's what we can do, here's what we can't do. And then there'll be a constant feedback on those recommendations. But they can look at they can go anywhere they want. They've got authority to do. If they want to look at repairs, if they want to look at finances, if they want to look at antisocial behaviour, then we have that discussion with them. So we've got a really good involvement network, actually.
Thank you. You were just talking about the 600 general needs and older person scheme, and you said there's some sort of formula that you have to follow. Is that the case for the 2-star comment as well? We survey up to 1,000 households, because that seems a small number.
No. That's just the 2-star one is separate, because what we want to do is not just have one set of tenant satisfaction measures and then that's all we've got. So we have transactional surveys of people that have received services, and then we've got that tenant influence framework that I just described as well. So you'd get like a bigger picture of everything. So what the regulator says is that tenant satisfaction measures, really, it should just be a bit of a can opener. It should just make you start asking questions, and is the particular issues. It is quite new. So it's come into regulation last year. So even the regulators saying it's very new, they would like to give it 3-4 years before they can start looking at the trend analysis, but they do use it in their inspections.
So sort of following up on that then, if you've got about 18,000 repairs, why can you not just give a form to residents and all of them fill them in?
We do. That's that second line that you see there. It says percentage of customers satisfied with repairs. So I think when Councillor Tucker was asking about what is it that you do, that sort of scale of 1 to 5, how happy with you. So after every repair, that's
yeah,
what
but
happens.
you say up to 1,000 households, but you've got 18,000 repairs.
Yeah. Unless it's a separate survey, that's a good question actually. Unless it's a separate survey.
I think that what you've just said doesn't really make sense, because you've said there's 1,000 households who are surveyed.
I think it might be my mistake.
Is
yeah.
it? And I think that was the question that Councillor Tucker
That's
has, and I think we all have. Is if you've got 18,000 repairs, why are you not just survey every single person?
I think that's my mistake. I think that's a separate survey that we do. It's got to be, because we every time someone has a repair out of those 18,000, that's the transactional analysis. So I think that's my mistake. It's got to be a separate survey, that.
Okay, so can you sort of confirm that for us at some point, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. And while we're on the KPIs, this isn't on your slide, but it's on the original one that you sent to us. You've got average call waiting time, and the target was 3 minutes, and the year-to-date shows over 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's another area that needs a lot of work, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's happening now. So yeah, as soon as I started, I seen that. So the target's 3 minutes. I'm saying to the team actually what the standard should be is about 150 seconds. So it's about 2.5 minutes. So just amalgamated 2 teams. There's 3 ways to get into Rooftop from calls. They either go through customer services downstairs, or they go into repairs asking for a repair, or they'll go into an income team if they've got concerns about rent in any way, shape or form. 2 of those are performing within that time scale. The repairs one is absolutely jammed with people waiting for it, and people are trying to phone up because they want to find out about what's happening with the repair, or they want to report a new repair. So that is, and we were losing calls as well. So people were abandoning because they were waiting for so long. So since that was the sort of picture, I'm not sure, it must have been around January or February when that original stats that you're talking. March, we've just started to see a change of that. So it's down to 4 minutes overall now, with an acceptance rate of 89%. So that's gone from 70% to the 89%, and it actually hit 10 minutes 1 month. So it was worse. But it's nearly fixed properly, so it's definitely on the way and sustainable now.
Thank you.
Have you considered the possibility of a ring-back system? In other words, that you offer somebody the opportunity to have a call back when that you reach the top of the queue, like the doctors do it?
Yeah. Again, really good question. So we are considering that. It's actually in some of the plans that we've got. The first protocol was to fix the problem, what was actually happening, and get some resources on the phones. So and then because that's changing, we want to go that little bit further. You know, the next milestone for them will be sort of the 95%. I've said we should be around sort of 98%, but we are investigating a callback system, and the Audit and Risk Committee at Rooftop have actually asked the same question.
Thank you. If I could just ask, so on the average number of working days to convict non in 23-24, there is no figure. I just wondered why that was.
I think it might be an IT issue, because I don't really like taking figures if they're not absolutely 100%. So.
Okay, thank you. And then just a point of clarity. So you've said customers satisfied with repairs is based on every single repair. Is that correct? You're saying that result is based on every single repair?
That's a transactional survey, yeah.
So that is a case of somebody, that would be either the text or the sort of that. So will you come back and clarify then what the survey of 1,000 households?
Yeah, I think Councillor Tucker asked that. Yeah,
I know she asked it. I'm just asking, would you clarify what that means, because it doesn't make sense to us as a. You've said here 1,000 households who've had repairs completed have been survey data out of 18,000. So is that the figure there?
No. Yeah, so that was where I think I've made a mistake. So on that 85%, 86.8%, that's the figure of that transactional surveys for all of them. I think that survey might be a separate survey of 1,000 households.
But you can write back to us just.
I'm going to make sure of that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And just on a sort of further question, so you sort of introduced the narrative around the fact that the sort of downward trend of dissatisfaction is just something that's industry-wide. I feel quite uncomfortable that that's the narrative that the sector's going to convalesce around, because ultimately that's not good enough. If it's a downward trajectory, we need to find out why. And I don't feel comfortable knowing that just because other social housing providers are having similar dissatisfaction, that's something that we should find satisfactory in knowing here. And there's been a substantial downward trend for satisfaction at Rooftop Housing. It's not a little bit, it's a lot. And I think you're the target, and I appreciate you only joined in November, so this probably wasn't your target. Maybe you wouldn't have set it at 82% if you'd had the opportunity. But it's very low. And I think obviously there's some more that comes out of that later on. But it does concern me that is so low. I don't really have a question, but just to comment on the fact that I just find it uncomfortable that that's where we would sort of just agree that it's an industry problem, so we're going to accept it and move on.
I'm really sorry, Chair, if I've given that impression. I was trying to give context to the situation, because those figures are quite startling, aren't they, when you look at them like that. So it's not Rooftop's ambition to drive down services or want services reducing around customer satisfaction. It's actually quite the opposite. But as I was explaining, we do look at all of the customer satisfaction coming back, find out what people are saying to us, and then coming up with plans with it. But it is happening nationally. So I mean, if you do compare Rooftop, it is the sector median. It's above the median of 71%. So all I was trying to say really was, I wasn't saying, oh, it's okay. It's all going down. So Rooftop.
No, I don't imagine that you're trying to tell me it's okay. And just because we haven't really touched on these numbers that are also at the bottom of this page, so it talks about sort of new builds coming on stream and the different things that happen, and relatively sort of low numbers have come into stock essentially for Rooftop. So I guess I think you there is a couple of slides on where you've sort of mentioned some particular schemes where there's been some challenges. Yeah. Is that what's led to this sort of decline in this grid?
Part of it, yeah, but also housing associations, because of the new regulatory framework and other reasons, are actually taking deliberate choices to invest in the current stock that they've got to make sure that it's been brought up to standard. So I think that was one of the written questions actually. So that's one of the reasons for that. There is a programme up to 2028 because that's when the government grants are available to, and there's an away day actually that Rooftop are having with the board to specifically discuss this in June, I think it is, in the summer, just around new build and where we're going with it.
So when you say board, do you mean the executive board of Rooftop?
Yeah, the overall board. Yeah.
Thank you. I think, is it a new question or is it?
Well, it's a new question just related to average dates to relet, which extended from 40 to 92. I'm just going back to what gentleman was saying. Is that because you're retrofitting some of the properties, building them up so that they are perhaps sort of air source heat pumps or something?
Yeah. Can I just answer that, Chair? So the target there of 40 days, and you can see the 92 days, that it's a mixture of things. It is getting the repairs done. Some of the properties are coming back in an awful state. Some of them are really difficult to let because they've that 1970s sheltered feel to them, or we have to have care plans in place for the extra care schemes, so we can't just let properties without it. So there's some delays in there, and there's definite delays in some of the processes that Rooftop does as well. And saying that was that key movement stuff that I was explaining before, that is then just highlighting where those particular delays could be.
Thank you. We do need to let Mark move on to other slides in the presentation. So, Councillor Tucker, you've asked, so I'm going to let your wife ask a question because she just put her hand up. And it might even be a similar question, so we might kill two birds with one stone.
I'm sure it won't be similar, and it may not be the way you want to do it. But the figures for shared ownership are obviously moving up quite fast, presumably because government wants it. Where do I get hold of a copy of the obligations of the Rooftop side of the share? Because there's two halves, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it's my understanding that the housing people at Rooftops don't deal with the shared owners, so who does? And what are the rules about who does what?
Okay. I mean, I can try and get some documents to furnish you with Councillor Tucker, so because that'll be on the investment side that does that. We do deal with shared ownership, but I'll get you the policies and procedures, and you can see the roles and responsibilities of each.
Will you do it via by the clerk, or how will I get it?
I'll send.
Noted. It will come to Spencer. We can get that back out to you, Councillor Tucker.
And my second question was going to be about. Well, there's been an increase in charges, as happens everywhere. I understand that. And there's been a £9 increase in the example I'm thinking of, which for service charge. But on an abandoned site, there's been virtually no service, and I'm not sure that that's right.
Right. Can I just respond? I mean, if you would like to give me the site, I can have a look into it. You're right that service charges do come forward every year. If there's services that haven't been delivered, or there's a feeling of that, then I can definitely look at that. I mean, I'm dealing with service charges now in one of the older person schemes that have gone up from a care provider that we partner with.
Perhaps I could speak to you at the end.
Yeah.
If it's not too late. Councillor Tucker, Charles Tucker.
Thank you. We're talking all about the number of houses being delivered in the bottom part of this graphic. But I know that you do sell houses, and a number of houses are bought under right to buy. So are those net figures, or are they just gross figures? And what is the impact of sales either through right to buy or direct sales, which Rooftop choose to make?
Right. I haven't got the right to buy figures or the sale figures at my fingertips. You are right that we do sell them. That comes at a point that if we see a property that needs, £10,000 spending on it or upwards, it then goes into a procedure where we'll assess it and see whether we want to offload it or invest into that property. I haven't got the right to buy figures. Those figures are total figures, so in the language you're using, they're probably gross figures. Yeah, does that make sense?
So the net figure after right to buy is going to be less than those figures?
No, there's no right. These are just the homes that have come forward for new build in that particular year. So there's the number of new homes.
Oh, right.
So it's not minus
doesn't
or
take
taken
any
into
account
anything account. Yeah.
Of right to buy. Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mark, you can move on to the second slide.
Okay, so this one's just around how Rooftop spend the money. Three big areas have just been pointed out on the slide, really. One is servicing of loans and the funding to be able to draw down to build new homes. And the next day-to-day repairs, that I know we're mentioning it a lot. And then managing properties to support customers, so staffing costs, colleague costs. Should I move on? What was the question?
Sorry, Mark.
All right.
Councillor Dyke.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. There's a number of things wrong with this. First of all, do you know what your total spend is?
As in the millions type of thing. I haven't brought us any of the financial accounts information with me, Councillor, now.
So you don't know how much you spend on everything?
Yeah, I haven't brought them with me. So, for example, on day-to-day repairs, we're spending sort of 13 million this year, but I haven't.
Got the actual total number.
I haven't got them. I haven't brought them with me.
It might interest you to know that these are pennies out of a pound. We take it. It only adds up to 99 pence. So you're a penny out somewhere.
Okay, I'll take that back to my finance.
And
it might be a typo.
It also doesn't say anything about salaries or staff costings or anything like that in here, unless it's incorporated into one of these figures. That's my other. Is it incorporated into one of these figures?
The staff inside is managing properties. So that's how they've done it. So they've said managing our properties is the third largest area and includes the cost of housing officers supporting customers. It's like the grey on the left. It's in that bit, yeah.
Sorry, Chair, all I was going to say is there's quite a lot of roundings when you're looking at these numbers, and we ourselves, we've got some reports where we do say to members it might be £1 out, or as you said, 1% out. So if it's 1%, but in terms of those figures, yeah.
Well, I think that if it's 1 penny out of every pound, and your budget is £80 million, that's quite a lot of money, isn't it? So, yeah, okay, but it is. I think we can agree that that's a lot of money.
Okay. Okay, this slide's just showing current developments, Chair. Just, I mean, you'll know these areas more than I. So it's just a list in your district around those developments, and then a little bit of delays to some of the developments with an explanation at the bottom there.
Councillor Clapworthy, then Councillor Googe.
I'd just like a clarification, if you could, please. The bottom one, Pershaw Road, Evesham, is the 67 properties. Now, I'm assuming that is the possible development at Eastwood Park. But it would tail down towards Pershaw Road. And then it says, start on site June 2025, but it hasn't even come to planning committee yet.
Oh right, I can ask the investment director around that. I thought
Jen,
it had gone to.
I think Jen can help you out there more on that.
I don't believe it's the one you're referring to, John. I haven't got it to my fingertips, but that has been through planning.
Sorry, yeah, the only one we know of is the Stuart Close one, and that's not 67 properties.
I'll see if I can check while we're in this meeting, but it's not. I believe it's one that has been through, particularly if it's starting on site in June.
So the reason I asked the question was because 67 conjures in my mind that as I say, yet to come before planning is the Eastwood Park area.
Again, I can get you 100% clarification on that and make sure you know, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Googe.
Yeah, another one, just basic clarification. You may or may not have the answer to hand, but I noticed that the 92 homes at Broomhall scheme were delayed owing to issues with highways. Do you have any more detail on what those issues were?
I believe it was ownership of and getting onto site and off site. I think it was quite complicated, and there's been conversations between I know the chief executive and the council over that. But that's generally the most information I've got.
Councillor Herman.
On the 13 homes at Pinvin at the very end, delayed due to the contractor going into administration. Forgive me for my ignorance, but what's the process if and when a contractor does go into administration? Do you have to start from the beginning again, or is there a secondary contractor that you can just move on to?
Usually we get notice of that coming through, and then we go into a process, like you say, of appointing a new contractor.
Councillor Charles Tucker.
Thank you. Looking at working out what it says about the almonry, despite the line going through it, I take it that isn't telling us that the scheme is stopped. It should make it more difficult to read, that's all. It talks about the traditional construction and targeting EPC A. I didn't know that Rooftop had any properties left that were EPC A. I thought with all the work which has been done over the years that you have managed to bring the EPCs of all your properties up well above A. And the second part to that then, if you please answer that, but the second part is, when somebody comes out of that property with an EPC of A, what do you do about it? You aren't going to put somebody back in, surely.
I think EPCA is the highest rating you can get.
Yeah.
So it's a really good thing that they're aiming for EPCA.
Sorry, I got it the wrong way around.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there is a question there to ask. Councillor Boatwright Green.
I should probably declare an interest in that I can see those 13 houses that are not finished yet from my house. But can I just ask, bearing in mind how long they have been left derelict, are we expecting things to have to be pulled down and for the residents to be informed, etc., who are already on the site? Because I can imagine this is going to be quite an ordeal for them.
I don't believe so. I believe there'd be another contractor coming in and finishing those properties off. But again, I want to get 100% clarification for you on that.
Any other questions on this particular slide? No? Oh, sorry, Jen.
Just to confirm, it was the Merrybrook Farm development that was approved, I believe, in November. Okay. It says it's approved on the website. With condition.
Okay, that sounds like we've sorted that one out as well. Okay, Mark, you can move on to your next slide.
Okay.
Oh, sorry,
Sorry, just going to go on the questions of where we said you've completed 49 homes of the original 153. That's not many homes from your original target. Is this unusual for your annual targets or not?
No, I think that's why they tried to include the Broomhall scheme, because the delay on there was including 92 homes. I think that was the issue around it not hitting target, because it's a big site.
Is Broomhall in Wychavon, or is it?
No,
it's outside of Wychavon.
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on. Yeah, can move on. Thanks, Mark.
So these couple of slides just about the vision that we've got within Rooftop. Really simple layout, says what we want to do on the tin, don't want to make anything complicated, really want to start communicating it out with customers. So it's actually saying what we would have achieved, and then we'll achieve, and how we're going to do it, how we're going to actually achieve it. So we've got digitally driven customer service, that high performing repairs and maintenance service, clean and safe neighbourhoods. I won't read them out totally, but you can see that we're going to be achieving this through making sure that we're financially viable, making sure that our people are absolutely proud and professional, excellent customer satisfaction, making sure we're dealing with complaints. And actually that bottom one there about external accreditation, that's that Rooftop doesn't really want to be marking its own homework. Just like as in coming here today, we want to speak to external people and we want them to look at some of the services that we've got and start sort of doing sort of deep dives into them, coming up with plans. So for example, how we're dealing with tenant participation, there's a national organisation called TPAS who can come in and they can produce a report for us to see, are we doing that well? Is there something else we can learn? Same other services too. So, okay.
Any questions on that slide that we just had? Can I just clarify on point 1 of we will achieve these by, and it's value for money. I take it that's for you and your customers?
Yes.
Yeah. Councillor Crump?
I did have my hand up.
Sorry.
Point 1, when you're saying about the digitally driven customer services, so some people prefer not to have digital, like to come and see you face to face. Appreciate you've got offices in Evesham that they can come to. What's the uptake on that? Do you feel that it's a well-used service? Do you promote it to people so that they know that it is there and available to them if they so wish? Yeah. Have you got any data on that one, please?
Yeah, so, digitally driven doesn't suit everybody. Like you're saying, people do come into the office, not a lot, five a day is the numbers that are actually coming into the office. We haven't got an app as such, so we can start seeing if people can report repairs or get basic tenancy details. Just been building one the last couple of months, so we'll be going to go live with an app and people can contact us that way. We've had the conversation about telephone calls coming through, so it's just having that whole different ways about how people can contact us. We need to review the website so people can report things through the website as well. So it's just having that 24/7 approach really to try and tailor it around people that are working or whatever, because the offices are closed on an evening.
Do you actually promote the fact that they can come into the offices as well to them?
Yeah, on Facebook you'll see the number of posts that are going out, and it's a whole host of issues, but on there it talks about office hours, opening hours, where it is. I think how to pay rent. There's all sorts of things on there.
I know you're just mentioning Facebook there, and as someone whose mum lives on Facebook, there's a lot of people out there that don't do the social media. They just, we've got a lot of people that are scared of computers, of phones, or anything like that, and they literally just want to see you. Do you do, sort of harping on about it, but are there any sort of visual things that they can see, whether there's, you send out newsletters that are actual physical newsletters to them and let them know, that type of thing?
Yeah. So we've got like a customer sort of booklet that goes out to customers. We've got the tenant influencing framework that I was describing before, so they get the word of mouth messages out. We talk to partners, and sometimes we do joint things with partners, sort of action days, things like that, and then get messages out into the locality that way. So we just try everything that we can really, and the role of the housing officer as well. A really good housing officer will know their patch, the people will know them. I actually received a complaint from a board member because we actually moved a member of staff around, and tenants were actually complaining that he wasn't informed. So we operate letters going out and things like that as well.
Councillor Googe?
Just on that of letting people know that there is a face-to-face option available. I've just had a quick look on your website, and while it does give the office opening hours, it doesn't say anywhere on the website that I've been able to find, in at least the 5 minutes that I've spent flicking through it, that there is a drop-in centre that people can actually come in and talk to a housing officer about issues. It gives the impression that it's just when your office is open, which is maybe if you want to deliver a parcel or something, it doesn't actually, I know you don't want to be flooded with people coming into the office, you'd rather they phoned or emailed or whatever, but even so, I think you could possibly usefully improve that by saying, did you know you can call into our offices during working hours and talk face to face to somebody if you're having difficulties using online or whatever.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that point and then, yeah. Okay, this is a bit of duplication, so I'll flick over this slide. This is the bottom of that previous slide, and it's just put in a nicer format. What I did want to talk to you about was C1. So that regulatory framework I was talking about, basically the regulators will come in, they'll ask for a load of documents before that, and then they'll be on site interviewing people and asking their own clarification questions. You come out of that on, there's 4 areas around consumer standards, which goes from C1 to C4. 4's the worst, C1 is the best. So this new regulatory framework's been in for the past 12 months. Every housing organisation will get an inspection over a 4-year period. Rooftop was actually selected as one of the first ones in the country. And last year they had the full inspection and they come out of it with a C2 judgment. And this probably feeds back into the questions and the comments that we were having before about customer service and not wanting to drive things down but actually turn it the other way. C2 in itself, what you did, where you'd want it, you'd want either a C1 or a C2, C1 being the best. If you're getting C3 and C4s, and many sort of London boroughs and places like that are actually receiving C3s and C4s around the types of services that they're providing, then you go into sort of not special measures as such, but you do go into very much action planning with the regulator for social housing. But the board and the team, colleagues at Rooftop, even though they got a C2, which a lot of organisations would be, you know, over the moon with, really, it's like it is an achievement, we're quite disappointed by it. So they actually want a C1. So I'm working with the regulator now around some of the improvements that they said that they thought Rooftop needed to make, and I've come up with a plan really with the teams, with tenants, and presenting it to board, and we're calling it a C1 plan at present. It's not a very good title. We are going to be putting a proper logo to it, and we're going to have staff voting on what they want it to be, whether it's Journey to Excellence or, you know, Achieving Excellence Together or whatever, and we've got some mock-ups for that. But I'm looking at a 12-month programme. Part of it, which I wanted to come on to, is what the regulator said that needed to improve. But the trick really is going to be that I'm going to have to deliver sort of the change and some of the changes that we've spoken about today that have happened while we're managing the business as well, and just getting better and better. But the focus is going to be on doing the basics absolutely brilliantly. That's where we are now, and making sure that every interaction that we do, it absolutely counts. So there's a whole plan in place. There is a board that will be overseeing it. The 4 areas that the regulator said Rooftop could improve on were repairs, and we've had quite a bit of discussion about that, complaints management, and this is around, you know, how we're handling complaints, how we responding to them in time scale. At the time of the inspection, Rooftop wasn't. There is a dedicated complaints team in now. Customer influence, this is around, can we demonstrate that when customers are making recommendations or they want things to do, like that scrutiny group I was talking about before, what have we done? It's like the so what question. So what have you done around it? And can you demonstrate it? Have you changed services as a result of what tenants have actually said? And then calling it equality, diversity and inclusion and vulnerability, but it's more around sort of getting to know customers a lot more. So what do you know about your customers? How are you tailoring services for them? And then, you know, any sort of areas where, you know, the website, for example, you know, definitely going to be looking at the website, the navigation of it, and involving customers in that. So any blockages to accessing services is the reason that I say that. And then it's all underpinned with resource plans and communication plans. So the regulator is really keen that, you know, you can just come up with plans. It's around are the proper resources actually in place. And when I was mentioning earlier about those extra resources going into repairs and damp and mould and complaints, that's based on this. I'll just go back one. So that's for that section. Do you want to just take?
It's an easy question. Sorry, I was just going to ask, is when you have got that plan and it's ready to roll, could we have a copy sent to us?
Yeah,
please.
Sure. The plan's written, So each one of those headings has got an action plan to them. It takes us up to next March. You know, things happen, you know, but that's the target that I'm going for. Went over the plan just yesterday with the regulator, who were overwhelmingly happy with it. It's already been to board. Board made some suggestions. Each one of those areas has also got a board member attached to it who's got a background or a bit of a speciality in each of the areas. But board actually own the plan. And then I've done a root cause analysis as well about what sort of went wrong or could have gone a little bit better with the teams that have reported. So I can furnish you with the actual plan and the root cause analysis as well. Say the target dates in it, there's proper actions, there's people that own them, there's titles next to them. And then if you wanted to ask, you can obviously contact me if you want to ask anything further. Yeah. Oops. That one? Yeah, because it's the same as the bottom, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, yeah. It's the same as that one. Is that okay? Yeah? Sure. Okay, I wanted to just put this in, and we've probably already had the conversation actually. This is just showing us, and I know it only goes to August 24, and it does follow through to now, of the high satisfaction rates that we're getting for responsive repairs once the repair has actually been put into place. So I won't go into any more detail than that because we had quite a conversation earlier around it. Is that okay, Chair? Because it was this one I wanted to talk about.
Has anybody got any want to raise questions on this particular? I think if you go on, Martin, if you've got questions, we'll come back.
Okay, this is where I was talking earlier around sort of backlog of repairs, people reporting more and more repairs, and then we need the resources to match it, which is causing the issues of those when we had the discussion around routine repairs and the 20 days and it's 36 and things like that. Normally it's called work in progress, so it's a bit of terminology, I'm sorry, but they call it like a WIP, which means that you'd expect to have a number of jobs every month in the system. Rooftop was saying should be around 1,500, but we had to recalibrate that to 1,700. So you'd expect PPC to be doing around 1,700 jobs successfully. And if they were doing those 1,700 jobs, then that routine repair target would actually improve and would start hitting target, for example. Because they're on the back foot and more repairs are coming in and keeping on coming in and phone calls are coming in, and they can't catch up basically. So the figure that we need to get to is 1,700. Now this was around 3,300 last August, and then you can see there it's 3,063, and we've got a plan in place now with PPC. Really start focusing on it, weekly meetings, and as I say, there'll be 5 more operatives going into that contract this year as well. So it's 25 operatives, it'll go up to 30. But you can see there that the plan is working because we're down to 2,382. So we're pretty much halfway there, and that's without the 5 operatives. So we get the 5 operatives in. I think that they will really go through this. And then the plan is that the operatives then will move on to voids and lettings, so those relet times that we were talking about before. But this is coming out without doubt one of the, if not the top, it's got to be in the top 3 areas that Rooftop are focusing on, that customers are saying this has got to be better. So I just wanted to show you that so you could see the progress and then know where we're going with it really.
Just so when you say so there's 25 people, that's what you refer to as an operative. So there's going to be 5 more operatives.
Yeah.
So there's 25 people that are going out and completing these repairs on a daily basis.
Yeah.
5 extra.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll let everyone else ask their questions. Thank you. Councillor Sims and then Councillor Crump.
Chair. I mean, the repairs is a significant spend in your budget per annum, isn't it? You've identified, and this is a sort of full. So now you're getting 4 new staff to help with that burden. How are you going to address? I mean, what are these repairs? Because, you know, are they major, minor, just, I mean, what is it about why there is it a recurrence, or is it bad fitting or something? Because it's a significant cost, isn't it, on you?
It is. So we're looking at it's an excellent question. We're looking at the repairs categories now. So it is a mixture of different types of repairs. So we were talking about those routine repairs in 20 days, the emergency repairs. We'll be bringing in, or we're looking at, so I should say, sorry, I haven't got authority for it yet, but we're looking at bringing in a 7-day urgent repair, because what is happening is that somebody could be phoning up, the member of staff thinks that this person can't wait that long, and then is actually pushing it into an emergency repair. So we can't let this person wait on a routine repair. So, and also if there's any vulnerabilities or anything like that, we'd want to do it a bit quicker than 30 days as well. So we'll be putting in a 7-day one, and then that'll start equalising out some of the repairs. The question that you was talking about then around the complexity of it, we'll be looking at doing calling it like a P4 code, but it's more complex repairs that need to happen, like building work or brickwork and things like that. They shouldn't really be falling in the responsive repairs system. That should be more in a planned maintenance bit. So that might be around sort of 50 days or so. But then what you're starting to prioritise the work that's coming in then, and using your workforce in a far better way, a more targeted way. So there's I mean, I don't know if everybody will see the repairs plan that Councillor Tucker asked for as part of the C1, but there's an immense amount of work happening. I'm making this sound quite simple. If my head of repairs was here, he wouldn't be. I don't think he'd be happy with me explaining it this way. But that's generally what it is. Okay. Complaints. There is.
Sorry, Mark. Councillor Crump just had a question.
Sorry, my fault.
Hopefully it's a quick one for you. You said 1,700 is your target. When do you hope to sort of, do you have a vision of, realistic vision of when you can achieve that sort of target?
Yeah, so we're in this partnership with PPC. So the actual plan that's in place for this is next March. I mean, you can see it's going to be way sooner than next March. So I think this is going to be 3 to 4 months. So every week we're monitoring this. So I'm sat in the meetings with PPC, and they're explaining what they're doing with the members of staff and how we're improving this. So I think it's probably going to be 3 or 4 months. That's just my gut feeling around it. And then those staff will then move on to void work, and then we'll start improving that lettings process as well. But you can see that they're halfway there already, and that's without the staff. And that's come from the end of November to now.
Can you let us know when you get that target?
Oh yeah, I'll be letting everybody know. I'll be I'll be celebrating when that goes, because that's been hanging about for quite a long time. So I think the tenants will be celebrating more than me as well.
Sorry, Mark, just going back on that particular slide. So since November, when you said you joined Rooftop in November, is that right? So you've obviously made an impact. So what wasn't happening? Well, you have. Let's be honest about it. Unless you don't want. So what's changed then? If you've come and you've done nothing, what's changed?
Oh, I'll take the first one.
Well, yeah, no. Okay.
So So I mean, to be fair, PPC getting a lot more focused. We've got these weekly meetings in place. This has been highlighted as a priority. There were things that Rooftop wasn't doing, so we're improving the phones, for example, the diagnostics at the front end there around actually making sure that we get the repair right and is logged right. So, you know, an operative isn't going round and it's the wrong repair, or they've got the wrong equipment, or, you know, materials or whatever. And it's just generally been, I've got to say, a relentless focus on it, and that's sort of what happens. That's where it's come from. And PPC in partnership are doing really good partnership around communication, understanding what each of us are doing. They've made changes as well. So if there's something around duplicate jobs. Some jobs were being raised. Same job might have been in the system two times because our systems wasn't stopping that job being raised. So it's things like that. So we're cleaning all the stats up, and they're improving as they go as well.
So the relationship between Rooftop and PPC has improved? Communication has improved. But so are we just saying that then that was the main issue, was the fact that we were sitting with this whip as it was because of communication?
No, as I say, there was different issues, so resources weren't being used to optimal. So if Rooftop were raising a repair and it wasn't diagnosed properly on that phone call, for example, then an operative could be travelling far and wide, gets there, and it's actually it's not being logged correctly, so he's got the wrong equipment. I'm just giving like one couple of examples. So there's duplicate repairs that there was an issue that we looked at. There's that diagnostic checks at the beginning of it to make sure that the people who are on the phones are literally saying to getting as much information as they can from customer to be able to log it correctly. And there's just been quite a relentless focus. As I say, it's a weekly meeting that I go to every week, and it's top of the agenda. This complaints being the second one. So the supervisors and the team leaders at PPC have the jobs that people are doing per day have improved. So more productive.
Just so that I can, so once you get to that 1,700 number, that's when you get down to 20 days wait.
Yeah, so hopefully, so it's more than hope. So what will happen is that, there'll be no backlog to address. That's the normal way of working. That's what you'd expect that workforce to then do, the 1,700 within that month. So that's why the obsession is to get down to the 1,700. But then we've got 5 extra operatives that we've just put into the contract, but at that time I just don't think they'd be needed, so we'd move them on to doing something else, which would be the voids. I've got Councillor Tucker, sorry.
Oh, I'm glad you did. Councillor Tucker.
That's all right, Chairman. I'll keep waving my hand. I'm intrigued by this joint working with PPC. I'm wondering, do they have different standards from Rooftop? Is their performance of the same calibre? Is it better? Is it worse? You say you brought in an additional 5 members of staff. Is that jointly between yourselves and Platform, or is that purely for Rooftop?
It's for Platform. It's a partnership cost-sharing vehicle. It's actually quite rare. It's not like a client-contractor partnership where we'd be paying somebody to complete repairs. It's actually it's a partnership arrangement. So the cost is the cost, really. So if you want the 5 operatives, then it would be Rooftop that would be adding that additional money into it, but they'll be based obviously in PPC. So they're operatives that are managed by PPC, but they're paid for by Rooftop, but it's part of the whole partnership arrangement.
Yeah. Sorry, but I wanted a bit more clarity. Do Platform have the same standards and the same targets as Rooftop do, or is it a different approach that they have?
Apologies. Yeah, so those targets around that 24 hours for emergency and the 20, they've got the same targets. So everyone's clear what needs to be achieved. Okay, just go on to this slide, Chair. So now there is a mistake on this slide, which if people may have noticed, which is the Ombudsman complaints box at the bottom right-hand side. It's got 10, 10 and 12, whereas if you look at the Ombudsman count at the table above, those numbers are different. It's ICT have confirmed it was a filter when they were producing this report that they didn't put on the true figures of the Ombudsman count figures at the top. Okay, so I just want to say that from the outset. So which is the 12, the 3, the 7, and the 2. So these, it's quite a difficult slide. These are new reports that have been putting together since they arrived, really. But what this is showing us is the number of reports coming in at stage 1. So there's stage 1, which we answer in 10 days. If the person's not happy, they can go to stage 2, it's 20 days, and then that's reviewed by a head of service, a senior manager. And then if they're really not happy, they can go to the Ombudsman anytime they want. They don't have to exhaust that process, but usually the Ombudsman does say, have you exhausted the process? And then the Ombudsman decides then whether to pick up a case or not. So that's a very wide overview. But we are signed up to a statutory code that the Ombudsman puts through to us. So that 10 days and 20 days is an example, and it is an absolute minefield of all the things that we have to say that we were going to do. It's even quite prescriptive about the letters, and we get monitored on that by the Ombudsman, and that statute that now is. So every year we have to go and do a self-assessment and say exactly how we are applying to that standard. High complaints are not an issue. The Ombudsman and we do manage complaint and look at complaints number-wise, but the Ombudsman actually says in that code that, you know, if it was low complaints, they'd be concerned. High complaints means that you could have an accessible service. What they're more interested in is, are you learning from complaints? What you're doing as a result of the complaints? Rooftop does have a high number of complaints, and I know I sound like a real broken record, but it's because of the repairs. You know, people are either waiting for the repairs, or we haven't communicated that with them. There are other reasons, obviously, that come into it, like staff and how if people are being spoken to incorrectly, or there could be antisocial behaviour or services that we haven't delivered, but predominantly it's the responsive repairs area. So at that stage one, there's 274. Now that 274 actually does include the stage 2, the 88. So the total number of complaints that we've got this year is 274, and you can see the rise in complaints that has happened over the last 3 years there on the right hand side. That's probably all I was going to say, Chair, if there's any questions.
Yeah, just a little one. I mean, obviously, making it easier for people to complain will increase the number of complaints anyway, and you would possibly expect complaints to go up if your housing stock is increasing and you're getting more people. So a simple year-on-year increase in the number of stage 1 complaints isn't necessarily an issue. But it does seem that your stage 2 complaints are going up faster than your stage 1 complaints, which suggests that you're getting a large proportion of complaints that don't have a simple stage 1 resolution. Do you have any detail on why that is?
Yes, so I mean, it's actually one of the priorities, because we can't stop a stage 1 complaint going to a stage 2. That's actually in the code. So if somebody does want to put it to stage 2, then we can't actually, you know, we can't say no. So, but the reasons that people are moving from stage 1 to stage 2 are either obviously they don't agree with the stage 1 outcome, so they want someone independent, and on the bottom of the letters it's saying to people, you know, you've got this option if you want it, and there's nothing stopping them saying, oh yeah, go ahead then, I don't agree with the recommendation, I'd like someone independent, someone more senior to look at it. If we've offered them compensation, sometimes it's not enough and they want more, so they want to go to stage 2, and they're generally the main reasons why people go from a stage 1 to a stage 2. If we were looking at some of the themes that we've been looking at, we've got some problems around sort of stage 1 that we've dealt with, making sure that stage 1 is dealt with as best it possibly can be, and we're communicating with the customer right from day one. And there is a dedicated complaints team now. We'll be putting an extra officer in that team because of the complaints going up and because of that code. So there's 4 people actually in that team at present, and they phone up and they have conversations and putting something in now around, you know, before we're issuing that final outcome. Have we got a feeling that the customer is happy with it before we actually issue it, just to try and reduce people having to go through these stages, because we want to resolve the complaint, you know, we want to see if they're upheld, for example, then there's clearly something that's gone wrong, and then we want to learn from that, whether it's a policy change or, you know, a member of staff that needs speaking to or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, just as a follow-up to that, do you have any statistics on the resolutions of complaints? Because obviously, broadly speaking, complaints resolutions divide into 3 categories. So the ones where you've investigated and there isn't actually a problem. Then there's the ones where you've investigated and there is a problem and you fix it and the customer is satisfied with the resolution. And then there's the ones where you think you've fixed it, but the customer thinks there's still a problem. And it would be nice to know what proportion fall into those broad groups. Yeah,
so through the chair, I don't have it divided into those groups. We have upheld and not upheld. So, you know, if for example, if a customer is saying I'd like a brand new kitchen, and we're saying, well, you know, it's part of a programme, we can't give you a kitchen for say 12 months or something, and that's part of the policy, then that wouldn't be upheld, and then but the customer then still isn't happy because they haven't got the kitchen that they wanted next week or next month or whatever. So that's how we divide them up at present into upheld and not upheld. And then the ones that are obviously upheld, we then see what is it that went wrong. Was it a process? Was it staff training that needs to happen? Was it something fundamentally that we need to change with policy, etc.? And then we're just developing learning reports now that will be ready for July, and they'll be going through audit and risk committee and the senior management team as well, so we can say, well, this happened and this is what we've done.
So do you have the statistics for upheld and not upheld?
Not with me, because I didn't realise I was going to get, I didn't know, but I can get you those as well.
Thank you, Chairman. For clarification and information, could you explain what is meant by staff count and cancelled count, please?
Oh yeah, so that really shouldn't be there. That's part of how I think they've put the pivot table together. So yeah, sorry, that's my fault.
With all the complaints and things that you're getting from customers, how is this affecting your staff? And how do you deal with issues from the staff point of view of, obviously if they're being abused, for example, on abusive telephone calls, etc. And do you find that your staff turnover has increased as a result of these extra complaints?
Yeah, so we do staff training. We've just recently done staff training around sort of customer care. We do specific training on complaints. One of the reasons why complaints has actually increased is because staff know that this isn't generally a service request, and the difference between a service request and a complaint, especially if a customer is saying, well, I've reported this before, so they're offering them complaints. That's one of the reasons that they're rising. The approach that we're taking is that we want a culture of a positive complaints culture. So we want to be learning from complaints. If it's a specific staff member and a specific issue, then obviously we get HR involved. But from a morale point of view, the main morale issue was that are we dealing with them on time, and have we got appropriate resources to be responding to some of these complaints? And that was probably the main morale issue that come out. And as I say, we've got a dedicated complaints team in now of those 4 officers that just deal with complaints. And staff and the staff turnover, there's nothing that you could directly link back to complaints around people leaving.
Thanks. So I think just from my perspective, so we haven't seen, Rooftop hasn't come before this committee now for, when was the last time they came before the committee? It's certainly not while I've been here.
I think it's 2.
It's definitely since only this, so this is the first time since the life cycle of this council. I think, Mark, it seems that you've joined Rooftop at a pivotal time and you've obviously made an impact. Having seen the presentation before we sat down with you and you've given us extra context, was mindful that I wanted to make a recommendation to the executive board that this does not look like a service that's performing for our residents. When you look at the statistics that are coming out and the numbers of complaints, you are in the hot seat. It's unfair that this is all targeted to you. So don't take it personally.
Oh, no,
this is our residents on the whole deal with Rooftop. There's a couple of other providers, but Rooftop takes the lion's share of this service in our district, and it's incumbent on us to hold you to account and to when we see this data, to ask questions. I think every single member anecdotally could tell you that every single resident that we do talk to that does dwell in a rooftop house, I can't say that I always get glowing reports about their interactions with the service, and it's evident that you're trying to make changes there and to support that, and it does seem that that's starting to get some traction. So in that point, I don't feel like it makes sense at this point to make a recommendation to executive that I believe further oversight needs to be looked at this, because, like I say, they don't have a choice. Our residents have your houses or no houses when it comes to this sort of provision. So we have to take it with the seriousness that this is important. I think it's only fair that if you're happy to provide us with your C1 plan, which you've said you would, if you're happy to come back before the conclusion of that plan, so I think it would be good if we could see you again in this sort of maybe the tail end of this calendar year to come back and specifically talk to that plan. And I think it would be great if we could come and have this sort of candid conversation again, because I think that's the only way we're going to progress. Yeah. So I do recognise that you've been sat there. It can feel a bit uncomfortable and a bit intimidating and not very nice. I'm sure you're very used to it, but I also appreciate it's not how everybody wants to spend their Wednesday evening. So I appreciate your honesty. I think it's been an informed session. We've learnt a lot, and we can definitely see that you are putting steps in place to try and rectify some of the issues that you're dealing with. So I think the committee would want to wish you luck, and we will be in touch with whoever to sort of ask you to come forward. Yeah. If you can provide those points of clarity that we've sort of touched on, that would be fantastic. And if you can provide us with a plan ahead of when potentially you might come back to us in the future, that would be great. But I think we all do, we want to see this service thrive. We want you to hit the targets that you're aiming for, and we wish you luck in the process. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll hopefully see you again shortly.
No problem. Thanks everyone.
Moving on to our work plan. So bear with me 1 second. Right. Our work plan, so going to so I just wanted to refer back to, you remember that we had the Tim Lewis and come and speak to us from the sort of environmental team. He's the guy that sort of looks after all the street scenes, manages the FCC contractors with littering and stuff like that. So we had asked at that meeting that we'd asked that members, officers speak with FCC and raise our concerns around littering. We've had an update from Tim to say that in reality that hasn't yet happened. That's apparently to do with ongoing contractual negotiations to do with other parts of the service. I understand that, but if I'm honest, I'm disappointed that that's not happened. It was some time ago that we asked for those concerns to be raised. We're about to go into the spring, summer, where we expect to see FCC doing the street cleansing activity, which brought Tim to the committee last time. But I appreciate Tim has said that there's a renewed energy behind that. He wants to take it away, and he will update us shortly. I just wanted to let you know from the chair that I'm not letting that one go. I think it's a really important thing that we have a handle on. And given recent conversations around litter and other things, it's definitely something that we need to keep our eye on. But in terms of our forward work plan, we have, so our next meeting is the it's July, isn't it, the next meeting? So 16th of July. 16th of July. A long way away. So we will, in the meantime, I guess, need to come together again to look at our next forward work plan, which we'll need to set up a workshop for that to do. And so we will look at that. Yes, Councillor Tucker.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, in terms of that, when we look at the next forward plan, can we look back at some of these things that we've got on the list as other items so that we don't lose track of those?
Yeah, we wouldn't lose. I think if things haven't, if we haven't had time this time, we can definitely look at something that gets prioritised or is definitely part of the next work plan. We know that we were expecting a Revs and Bends update, but we've talked about that and how that will come back to us in the near future. And also Jen with the community safety partnership. I got it right. There was some sort of bureaucratic stuff that happened which delayed that, but that Jen and I have spoken, and that will, I think, probably come forward in July-ish, won't it? Yeah, so we expect those things to come forward. But I think the workshop will be the next step where we can start to consider the work plan. Is everyone happy with that? Anything else that they wanted to just say on the work? Yes, Councillor Crump. I think it's like the 16th of July or something, isn't it? 16th of July, yeah. It is, yeah. A lot can happen in 3 months. Any other questions on the work plan? Councillors? Not on the work plan, okay. Okay, well, I think we're going to get the workshop, we'll try and get the workshop in as soon as we can, I guess. Yeah, May, June, okay, fine. Okay, and then we've got executive work plan. Any comments on that? Oh, sorry, we've got the scrutiny health update. So just to thank Anthony for that update. Any questions on that in particular? Yes.
Yes, I'd got two questions. Two things I'd like to know is what this. I know they've been looking at adult services, but I would like to know what the situation is for children, child and mental health services. And the other thing is, what help do these patients have, these adult patients have, when they are returned to the community? How much help are they being, and is monitoring going on? Those sorts of things.
So my suggestion is that you put those questions...
Contact him.
Yeah, directly.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's fine that you've raised them here, obviously, but I would put those to him directly. Anthony always provides a comprehensive report of HOSC, so I'm grateful for him to do that. I mean, I don't know the sort of protocol for HOSC, but I'm pretty confident that if you wanted to attend a future meeting of HOSC, we can look to see how that could be possible. And so that's okay, fine. Forward plan. Everyone, any questions on the executive forward plan? Yep.
Can I just ask a couple of questions on it? Because some of these seem to be massively out of date. I mean, Town Centres Advisory Panel, for example, it's got not before May 25, but there's nothing else on there. So it's not going to be here before May, but it doesn't say when it is going to be there. Does that mean we will get it in May? Or will we get it? I mean, there's quite a lot of these different things that are mentioned in here. Some of them go back to 24 even. There's another one, Vale Park, Evesham, not before 1st of May 25. And I just wondered why that should be. Is it on track to come in May? Or am I just being a bit picky?
Acted in, but Jane can tell us why.
Yeah, we do need to do a bit more work on the forward plan, the executive forward plan with the officers, just to make sure we got the dates in. But just take an example of, there's two there, Vale Park, possible land transactions, council land and property assets. They're standing items. If we know we've got something coming, but there isn't anything coming up at the moment, but if there's any land that we need to buy or that we need to sell that's an executive board decision, we then slot that in. So that's each time we do it, we say, well, it's not before the next meeting, but really maybe we need to be a bit more articulate in what we're saying against it. Yeah.
Not like you, Councillor Dow. Any other questions on the executive work plan? I think we will look ahead now to what the sort of new makeup of local government will be. That's going to affect the executive forward plan. It's going to affect our work plan. There's definitely a role, I feel, for ONS to play in that. It's too early to say what that is, but there is definitely going to be a role for us to do that. And obviously, the strategic things that we had in mind, there will be some that we can reach and some that we know will now be out of reach and will be, part of the considerations of. But it's what we do in this time that's really important. I think that's the emphasis that we place on the work that we do. Okay, I will. No further. Councillor.
Sorry, I apologise that maybe I should have asked this earlier when we were accepting the minutes from the last meeting. You recall, it's been recorded in there that I'd raised a question of Severn Trent about the A44 and the fact that it's having to be done again, and who was basically going to be picking up the bill for that, and they weren't able to give an answer, but were coming back. Has anything come back at all?
No, I've asked them 3 or 4 times now for an update, and I've not received anything on the A44 at the moment. But I think, to be fair to the person who came to the meeting, he's having the same problem where he's chasing people, and they're clearly not getting back to him.
There was so much confidence. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your engagement this evening, and we will see you hopefully for the workshop in May or June, but if not before, we'll see you for July. Thank you.